Hello and welcome to On Air with Owen. Me, Owen Richards, founder and CEO of Air Marketing, your go-to for outsourced B2B sales and marketing, and my new co-host, fellow business owner and great friend, Neil Finnie.
Hey everyone, Neil Finnie here, founder of the Generator Work Hub, a co-working space here in the beautiful Exeter, and also Next Gen Careers, a professional development program nurturing the talents of tomorrow.
Each week, we'll be diving into the everyday truths around running your own business. And trust me, we're not sugarcoating anything. It's all about the highs, the lows, and everything between when you run your own business as a founder.
Expect candid conversations and valuable insights between the two of us. Plus, we'll be joined by some special guests along the way.
So, time to sit back and tune in to this week's honest conversation. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Air, and once again I am joined by my good friend Neil Finnie. Neil, how are you today?
I'm good, mate. Sun's out this very day, even though it's meant to be windy, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean it's beautiful outside. I've come to work in shorts.
I've got shorts on, but I'm not going to stand up. I don't need to see your legs, even though you've got amazing runner's legs. How do I know you run though?
Because I told you.
Not that you talk about it.
Are you setting me up for this? I love it.
Maybe.
So we are. I'm feeling very, very proud of myself, as you well know, because I achieved an important goal of mine on Friday, and I'm going to tell everyone about it today because I'm proud of myself. Is that right?
What was it? I mean, what did you achieve? What did you do? I know, but tell everyone.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for asking. So a year ago, I set myself the goal of running a sub 40-minute 10 kilometers before I turned 40 this year. So I coined it sub 40. I'm one of those people that has to have a goal. I need to know what I'm working towards to work hard. Like if I've not got a reason for doing something, I won't do it. If I've got a good enough reason, I'll absolutely commit. I'm all in or I'm not in at all. So yeah, when I turned 39, I said, I'm going to run a sub 40 before I turn 40. And on Friday, 3-4 months ahead of schedule, I did it, officially did it. Exeter 10K river run, 39 minutes, 57 seconds, 0.6. So 57.6. So 3.4 seconds faster than my goal, which is a very fine margin. And yeah, I'm feeling so delighted that I managed to get there. There were definitely moments along the journey where I thought I wasn't going to make it. Had months injury and not being able to running earlier in the year and all that sort of stuff. As you have towards any goal, there's always bumps in the roads. But feeling super proud of myself.
Was it? Well, congratulations first of all. Was it optimum conditions? No wind, bit of a chill in the air.
Yeah, it was a little bit windy, particularly coming back along the quay at Exeter, but not dramatically. It was good conditions. Yeah, it was. I can't complain too much. It's pretty flat course. There's a few bits of elevation on it, so I'd argue that a flatter course maybe I'd have been a bit fast. The irony is, I actually have run it faster than that on a different course. So 2 weeks prior, I ran in a race around a velodrome. So it's a 1,500 meter, 1,600, it's about a mile, I think, loopy lap, and it's flat as anything because, of course, it's built for fast cycle racing. And I did a 10K race there, and I ran the first 10 kilometers of that 10 kilometer race. I ran faster than that. I ran at 39:20.
So, but you're just going around in the loop, like one of these mini velodromes.
No. It's flat tarmac, but it's think of it like a little Formula One track, but it's a mile long.
Where's that?
It's just flat. It's in Torbay. It's called Torbay Velodrome. There's nothing grand, but it's flat, which of course.
10K going around one of those cycling things.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. So it's the equivalent of 4 athletics tracks. All the way around, and it loops in different directions. But the corners are not dramatic; they're pretty gradual, and so it was like 6.5 laps or whatever it is.
I never knew they existed. Is that a thing? Are they across the UK?
Don't know. I'd never heard about it. I just happened to see this race, and it was like flat PB effort, all that sort of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. So that was better conditions, and I actually ran 10k according to my GPS faster in 39 minutes and 21 seconds. But when I got to 10k, there was still 300 meters left. So for whatever reason, the course that they measured was long, or my watch was short on the day, which I who knows, right? They every race varies a little bit, and there might be a bit of weaving in and out of people and all the rest of it. So my unofficial time on my watch was 39:21, and I'm thinking I've smashed this, amazing. My official time was 5 seconds too slow, so I had to go and do it again. I had to motivate myself to go back, having thought I'd done it, to go back and do it again. I came in ahead of the 40-minute pacer, and I was like, I've done it, and 5 seconds. So I had to go and do it again, which fortunately I did in the next race. But yeah, it's semi-relief, and it's it's also the other side of things where I'm delighted to have done it.
A lot of training, a lot of commitment.
Yeah, a lot of training, a lot of commitment. So it's been 9 months, barring a month in the injury in the middle of hard work, and I have been so committed to it because I wanted to do it, and I wanted it enough. And I always remember the thing that Mo Farah said in an interview once that always has always stuck with me, saying there's a difference between the people who want the outcome and people who want the process. The people who want the process are the people that get the outcome. The people who just want the outcome never get the outcome because they don't want to do the process to get you there. And that's how I always remind myself of that with training. Like, you've got to want to. I remember I think it was January, it was -4, -5, and my coach gave me an interval session, an hour and 15 minutes interval session. There was several 1 kilometer intervals with short breaks between, and they were fast kilometers. And it was, I had 2 hoodies on, I had a hat on, I had gloves on, I was freezing, thinking, God, this is awful, but I wanted to be there. And I was then, but I want to do this. And, everyone's around you like, why don't you ever run today? Exactly. And it's like, if you want it enough, but don't do those things, and you don't get there. And that's the reality. So
that's why I don't run sub 40. I wouldn't even be able to run a sub 50. Sub 50.
What are you talking about? Yeah, you do.
And I'm not going to
sub
either.
50, sub 50, sub 50. There you go.
You can do that.
Yeah, I've already done it, right?
No interest. No, with my arthritic toes and my gout, ridiculous. Who has gout apart from Henry VIII?
I actually spoke to somebody else who had gout the other day. Interesting one. There you go. So you're not alone.
How old were they? Like 84?
I would say mid-50s. Mid-50s, so not 84.
Well, the thing I take solace in, Harry Kewell, old Liverpool Australian footballer, had to give up football because of gout.
Well, there you go. You're in good company.
So I researched it as well. I was trying to research it to make myself feel better. Seemingly, lots of footballers suffer with gout because I've got arthritic toes, and I think the uric acid buildup can be exacerbated by that, and hence gout is a flare up. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my gout. What are we here to talk about?
Yeah. Well, the reason we've mentioned running, there is a business reason in that, is that we were talking about this the other day, and talking about the fact that why did I get there? And I said to you about having a coach, having somebody to hold me accountable, give me the structure. And I think you said to me, could you have done that because you know my coach? And you said, could you have done it without him? And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely no way could I have self-motivated on those wet, rainy, cold mornings and evenings where I've gone, I'm knackered, I've done a whole day at work, the kids have been feral, it's been hard, but you know what, I'm going to go and do a 45-minute run right now in the dark and the cold because I have to. I couldn't have motivated myself to do that every single time like I have. I think in the 9 months of training, I've missed 2 runs, and I'm either given 5 or 6 runs a week in my training plan, and I've missed 2 in 9 months. I don't think I would have motivated myself to do that so well. And it's just interesting because actually taking it into a business context, it's like, how many people actually utilize the power of coaching in the right way, and what role can it play for you if you're running your own business? Because the dark place of running your own business, and people talk about it being lonely, is true. You aren't necessarily accountable to anybody, and that can be a really dangerous place that brings the worst out of people and not necessarily the best. And yet you can control and create an accountability, even if it's an artificial one, where you say, you know what? In my case, I'm paying my running coach to coach me, but he's still holding me accountable, and that's his job. And he expects for me to respond in the right way to that. And it absolutely brings the best out of me. So I think, I've learned a lot about coaching in the business environment over the years of running air and how I use that. And clearly there's another example of it working well. And we were just chatting about the fact that, like, how can you use coaching to your advantage as a business owner?
Is that a question?
Do you want it to be? Yeah, go on. Answer it. Well, let me ask you a question. Let's look at it a different way. Have you got a coach? In any part of your life, have you got a coach?
No, but like no, not someone that is there specifically for a reason of coaching. However, I think if I think about it, I have multiple coaches in different areas.
Yeah.
But they've got into their own in a more organic way. I would say maybe more mentors or people that I'm connected with that I ask advice from in certain ways that I feel also hold me accountable to some extent. In the business side of things and having business partners, I think, it doesn't negate the need for a coach or someone else. And I actually think that maybe, and still now, but I think it's definitely something that I would think about professional wise. I've also thought about it personal wise in terms of that, like not a life coach, but a counselor. Like I'm really fortunate. I've strong mental health. Don't really get down. I think we've spoken about this before. You and I are very optimistic and haven't really needed it. But I think there are times where it's not necessarily about having a coach when you're at your lowest. It's also having it when you're at your highest. And someone that we both know, James Pegg, who's a counsellor, came into the Generator to give a talk about it. And I think if I didn't know James, if he wasn't renting space from us, then I would be utilising his services, because I think there's a lot of value in having someone in that part of your life as a kind of mental health coach to ensure that you're at your optimum, that you never drop too low. And I guess that's the same in business. Even if you don't necessarily feel that you need one, I think there is potentially value. I think, not potentially, I know there is value in getting a coach. I think the reason I haven't ever gone down that road in a professional sense around the businesses is, number one, I've had really strong mentors in the past. So Rich Walton, I'll tag him in this so he'll watch this one. I worked for his organization many moons ago, gone really well with him, young entrepreneur, had lots of skill sets, lots of drive, very enigmatic, great guy, very creative. And then when I launched Corkscrew with him initially at the beginning, I learned a lot from him and, really looked up to him and kind of followed him in what he was doing to a lot of extent. So that was kind of like a coach for me, a very organic coach, but still someone that I kind of looked up to and thought about the things they said and how they approach things. Then having the Generator, I've got a dozen coaches from different angles and different aspects. I think the thing that maybe I was lacking is a coach of someone that had scaled a business to a much bigger size.
Yeah.
There's lots of people in the Generator and Jim, my business partner at the Generator, have been very successful. But having someone that's gone through a whole process and maybe the middle of their career or coming towards the end that I could have learned a lot from, but have never gone that route. And will I ever? I don't think so, because I don't necessarily have a passion now to say exit a business. I think when I was younger, I did. I wanted to grow something, I wanted to scale it, sell it for 5 million or whatever, and then get out. I don't know if I have that drive anymore. It's not that to drive to do that. I love what I'm doing at the Generator. I love what I'm doing at Next Gen and Career Habit Pro. But do I want these to become organizations that exit in the future? I don't think so. I quite like being involved with growing it organically, building it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm not so worried about it. So I don't think I've necessarily found that. I think it's that goal. And if I liken it to your running, you're like, I wanna have that sub 40. Yep. You had a really, really clear vision. And I think if I thought, well, actually, at Next Gen, I want to grow it and I want to scale it and I want to exit, then finding a coach of someone that's done that, been through that, gone through that whole experience, I think would be super valuable. But I don't know whether or not I have that focused target. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. If you don't know what you're working towards, how can someone coach you to get there? And I think that's a good point around it. You touched on something there, which is interesting, which is that kind of, I think you call it like organic coach. So you've got a dozen coaches. I think it's also important to realize that you can have more than one person being a coach for you, and they don't have to be labeled a coach, right? It's in the case of running, he's called a coach. In the case of having a business coach, but actually it's having people around you that can hold you accountable, that can push you, challenge you, that have got a set of experiences that you haven't got. And sometimes that can be your colleagues, sometimes that can be your business partner. I think what I like about the term coach is that they're often on the outside of your day to day. So having somebody as a business partner that's coaching you, there's probably a little bit of a conflict there in that you've got the same goals, you've got the same interests, you've got the same perspective because you're in the same journey. Having somebody who's not in that journey on the day to day, but close enough to understand it and to look at it from a different view can be really impactful. But I do think there's elements of coaching that can be done by those of you, the people around you, your peers, your colleagues, your team in some cases, who've got expertise that you haven't. But there's something about, can those people really hold you accountable? Can you really open up to them in an independent way when they're a part of the journey every day as well? And I think somebody external can do that in a different way.
Yeah, agreed. And this is what I think the generator, again, Jim, I learn a lot from. I don't necessarily think he's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's someone that brings value. Andrea as well at Corkscrew and Next Gen and Career Habit Pro. Again, I learn a lot, and I hope vice versa. The generator side of things is, again, is it coaching? Probably not. Do they hold me accountable? To some extent, yes, because they will ask me again, have you actioned this or have you done that? And there's been something recently in one of the businesses where I've been thinking about doing something and I've had a lot of feedback in terms of, you really should do this. And I know it's what I should be doing and I haven't done it. And they keep saying to me, have you done this? Have you done this? And okay, I'm going to impact that. I'm going to execute it.
Have you done it yet?
No. You know me accountable. There is.
I don't know what it is, but yeah.
So, and I think it comes. I'm just going to touch on something else you said there, which is about having. It's not just necessarily one. It's having a range. Love Japanese culture. From the time I spent in the country, I'm always amazed by how they approach things, and also the language. And they have a term called moai. And I don't know if you've ever seen the TED Talk about blue zones. It's a really interesting TED Talk, and it talks about these 5 areas of the world where people live longer. I think one of them is like kind of Mediterranean, where they have a lot of fish and that Mediterranean diet. That's all the rage at the moment. And then you've got Okinawa, and they looked into it, and there's a couple of reasons behind it. One of them, they talk about ikigai. And lots of career coaches use this, and lots of people. It's about finding your reason for being, because in Japanese they don't have a word for retirement. So it's finding your passion, and then you'll always be happy. But I think a lot of people that have watched that TED Talk have overlooked this other concept of moai. So in Okinawa, they have this moai, and your moai is about 7 or 8 people that are basically your guiding lights over your lifetime for spiritual, financial, relationships, everything. And I think it's really important, they are on the periphery. They're not family, they're kind of friendships, but different type of friends. And that's why they live forever, because they have that support network. And I think, we're really fortunate, again, if I talk about the generator, that moai for me is in here. I've got someone on, if I look at business, someone about finance, there's someone on marketing, there's someone on law, there's someone on leadership. So, we've got a lot of that support network around there. And again, I think because I've never had a specific goal in terms of business about learning something, I haven't needed to pull in that coach. But do you have a business coach?
Yes and no is the answer. So I don't have a business coach per se, but I do have Clodagh, who sits on the board of our organisation as a non-executive director, and part of her role is to coach me and coach our senior leadership team. So I guess in that instance, yes, I have somebody I meet with one-to-one every month, and I'm accountable for making decisions. I'm accountable for moving things along. If I don't do it, she'll absolutely, she'll make sure I know about it. And I feel the, yeah, in a positive way, I feel the pressure of, I know I need to get that done by that point. I also get a completely different perspective and view from her to the one that I would get from anybody else in the business or from my business partner. So I think I do, and she keeps me focused on the bigger picture. Whereas day to day, you're looking at that. Oh, I've got to make that decision. I've got to do that for that client. I've got to do this for this employee, whatever. She keeps me focused on the why and where we're going and the how are we moving on those key strategic things. So I think she is a coach to me. Yeah.
Okay, so just again going back to my scenario where I'm saying, look, for me, I don't necessarily know if I have an end goal with the business. I'm not saying you have to kind of highlight if what the end goal, but do you know that you think this is where I want Air to be? I have a very finite pinpoint idea of where it needs to be, and I need someone to help me get there.
Yeah, I think the answer is it's evolved somewhat, particularly in the last 18 months. And I think, like anything, you change, you move and change your goals, right? And you rethink things because you change as a person. So I think I'm going through a bit of an evolution with that at the moment. But yes, historically, I've always been really clear that this is what I'm working towards. And I think at the moment, I'm nearing on what my new goal is for the business. And the conversations do center around that. So I think the answer to your question is yes, albeit I'm in a bit of a middle ground at the moment around what that's changing to, because it's okay for your goals to change, right?
Yeah, no, of course. They're always pretty fluid depending on where you are personally, and also the environment around you. Who saw COVID coming, and that obviously changed a lot of people's views. I think the other thing that I struggle with coaches is, and we talk a lot around this, around employment and building teams, is that kind of cultural fit.
Yeah.
Because my vision of like a business coach is it's not that positive.
No, I think that's fair.
I've met a lot of business coaches in the past, and I just can't resonate with them, get on with them. I find myself maybe too different. I haven't found someone that I would think, yeah, this person can support me, and I can learn from anyone. And a lot of these, and I think it was in the early days of Corkscrew, someone approached me to be a business coach, and they turned up in a suit and tie and a briefcase. And it's this and this, and it's I can build your business plan with you and everything else. And I was like, you're a bit dull to me. I can't really get on with that.
I've got some good direct experience with this. So I think what happened with business coaching. So when I first started in sales back in 2007, business coaching was a new thing, a reasonably new thing, and I was selling business coaching in the early stage of my career, or at least booking meetings for a business coach. And people didn't know what it was, and you'd explain the concepts and say, well, think about an elite tennis player. They have a coach, right? They have somebody who holds them accountable. They have somebody who helps set their goals with them, that challenges their thinking, and make sure they turn up every day. People go, oh, that makes sense. So business coaching was a new concept. What happened with companies like Action Coach, for example, is they then become commoditized like anything else. So all of a sudden, the demand increases, and they say, oh, we need to bring in some more coaches. So then people apply to be a business coach. And guess who typically applies to be a business coach is people that haven't been very good at running their own business, or people that want to be a business coach but don't necessarily have the experience. But because they got demand and they want to grow their business, they bring people in, they train them to be a business coach, and all of a sudden business coaching becomes a process and not a human-led thing. And I think so. I've had 3 or 4 people that you could probably categorize as coaches within the business environment across my career in different roles. I had an Action Coach business coach when we first started in Australia, and I learned some incredible things from him. Or we learned some incredible things from him. The thing that I always remember is that the bits that we learned from him were not necessarily the bits that came from the Action Coach playbook. They were him being him from his experiences. And I think that's what I've learned. I've had another coach for a temporary period here where I started Air, where all that person did was ask me questions. They'd never offer an opinion. They'd never, and it was like, here's the playbook. This is what I'm going to ask you. And so you don't resonate, you don't connect, and you don't feel then motivated to go and be accountable to that person. And that's where I think the human element is so important. You've got to find somebody that works for you in the environment in which you're trying to use them. And if you respond to somebody who's going to offer an opinion, challenge you, be tough on you, or if you respond to somebody who's a bit softer, you've got to know yourself well enough to know what's going to work. But back to your point, yeah, I agree. I think a business coach per se in isolation is not always the right answer in a business environment for coaching. Finding people who don't have a playbook for coaching, but can just be that connection for you, can be that person that you go to speak openly, to make sure they hold you accountable. That's coaching in its own right, even if they haven't got a qualification to say it.
Yeah, is that like, how did you find Clodagh? You know, how did that happen? Because obviously, you know, I've asked you if you've got coaching. Well, no, but I've got Clodagh, non-exec direct. You know, and I've met her briefly a few times, and she's lovely. You know, on face value in terms of personal basis.
Yep.
But was it that you got on well and that she understood the business? You know, she was looking for something as well at the time. Does she business coach with other organisations?
Yeah, it's one of those situational things. It's chance. So she's a lovely person, but she's also a bloody tough person, and I need that. So one of the things, going back to my running, one of the things with Phil is that he's flipping tough on me. So if I do miss something, if I do, yeah, there are no excuses. If I run too fast, he tells me. If I run too slow, he tells me. You know, he is that person, and Clodagh has some of that in her. In that if she's got a concern, if she doesn't think you're doing something, she'll say it out loud. So we respond well. I respond really well to that, and always have. I met her she was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce locally, and when COVID hit, they ran a series of virtual events where they were supporting local business owners. And at the time, you know, we were struggling, and I was, you know, struggling with not being social with people, so I joined a couple of those events. And I remember being on like just a round table panel discussion about things and how we were all coping and what challenges were coming up and how we were dealing with them. And Clodagh and I had, you know, you kind of end up in a conversation agreeing with each other on certain things, and we had a bit of back and forth in that conversation. I thought, oh, she's smart, and I think she probably felt, oh, that's an interesting business, and there was a bit of a connection there. And she dropped me a line afterwards and said, look, if you ever want a coffee or something, let me know, and I'm really happy to help. And so I thought on that for a while, and I didn't think much of it. And then probably a month later, no, not even that, maybe a week or two later, I said, hey, do you want to grab that coffee? I'd be up for it. And we ended up having, in those days, a Teams coffee and a virtual coffee, and we got along really well. And I was picking her brain on a couple of things in that conversation and saying, look, with the business, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And I just felt, so she's run I think a £40 million P&L before as a managing director of a tech company. I've never done that, right? So she's been through things that I'm going through and learned.
But that's where you want to get to, right?
Correct.
That's yeah. So there's a lot of alignment with that.
Absolutely. And she can empathize with the decisions I'm having to make and the things that are happening in the business because she's been there. And yeah, I just felt she was asking the right questions, and she was bringing ideas to the table, and personality wise, she was asking me why I would do that and challenging it and prepared to have an opinion. So that led to, we said, well, look, let's get in the boardroom together. And no one was in the office. The lights were still off. It was dark and COVID times. And said, sit at the other end of the table and let's just do a half day. You map out your plans, and I'll just help you with it. So it was completely informal. She wasn't doing it for anybody else. She was working for the chamber, and it just worked. It just worked. I remember coming out of that half day session with her, and it was, you know, no real agenda. We just worked our way through it, and I felt battered and bruised in many ways because she'd really made me question myself in terms of, yeah, why on earth did I do it that way? And what was I thinking about that? You know, because she was prepared to say it out loud, and there was no feeding into me or anything. It was just straight, honest feedback. And then she gave some ideas like, I've never thought, nobody's ever given me that idea before, and nobody's thought about it that way. So I felt pretty battered, pretty bruised, and I always tell this story, but I also felt really motivated and inspired to invoke change. And that's where it came from. And I said, would you come on in some capacity and support me? And it's just evolved over time. So it wasn't hey, I'm a coach, so this is what I do.
Without that meeting with Clodagh then, in that, because it was kind of serendipity, You know, you meet someone, you get on with them, you have a similar kind of approach to things, but obviously challenged as well. How do you find the coders of the world? You know, again, with that thing of business coaches, I think if you were to Google business coach, and again, there's going to be a lot of great business coaches out there that do it in this way, but I find it's going to be difficult to really know the value they're going to bring. You know, is their culture fit going to be there? Is it, you know, aligned with what I want to do? Are they going to challenge me in the right way? Are they bringing the extra skill sets I have? You know, how do you find the right kind of person to come on board?
I think you create it. I think you find it within your network. So I wouldn't go back out and go, right, I need a business coach or I need a personal coach and I'm going to go find this person. So Phil, my running coach, came through a referral from somebody, ironically through Cloda. Cloda came through meeting her in local network. But you have to be looking for it in the first place. So Cloda and I having that conversation, I wasn't ignorant to the fact that we wanted somebody to sit on our board to hold me accountable in the business. We had tried two, maybe three times in the past, and it had always been on our strategic objectives as a business that we would at some point build a board. So we build a group of people. It's ended up being one person now, but maybe that will grow, that were independent to Richard and I as shareholders, who would hold us accountable, bring a different perspective, help us mature the business, because we knew we had limits. We knew we only had a shared experience of growing a business together that was only so big, that only did one thing, and we knew we needed different inputs and different opinions. So before that, we had another non-executive director, albeit there was a break between the two of them, that again I met through network, got along with really well. He was wrong for the business, and we worked that out pretty quickly once we started working together. But you have to kiss a few frogs sometimes to find the right one, don't you? And that's just part of it. So we had an agenda to find somebody. It felt right with somebody, and it wasn't. It felt right with the next person, then it was. So it's just like that. You're not going to get it right first time. Just like you might hire somebody wrong in the business, but if you see it as a valuable role within the business and for you as an individual to grow the business, then you will look. And yeah, network for me has always been the way that you find those people. You know, going out and advertising, we look, this is a different journey.
So a question for you. So there might be some people maybe listening that have got businesses that are growing and are worried about the financial implication of a business coach. Because obviously if you're hiring someone that's got experience, they've maybe had success with their own business and, you know, they've exited or they've left that, or they've, you know, they've been able to free up some of their time. With that can come obviously a price point that's quite high for a lot of small startups. So how can you navigate that? You know, bring someone on to non-exec for some sweat equity, but again, you have to really believe in the service, the product, the business, to be willing to give time up for that. So how do you navigate that? Because again, those small businesses that maybe need it the most don't necessarily have the finances to cover bringing someone else in.
But you know what? Here's another way of looking at it. So valid point, and I understand why someone would ask that question. But this is businesses. These are businesses, no doubt, that likely spend money on marketing that doesn't work and waste it. That hire people that are wrong. That spend money on traveling to an event that they don't really make the most out of. Like, there is wastage in every business, wasted spend, inefficient spend in every business. If you are bringing a coach, you got to do it at the right level, right? So don't bring somebody in that's going to cost you $5,000 a month when you haven't got $5,000 a month. But you can start pretty simple, saying, well, I just want to have a session a month, right? And it might be that at a consultancy rate, somebody might charge you, I don't know, it varies dramatically, doesn't it? But if you're going to do a couple of hours a month, somebody might have a consultancy rate of £1,000 a day. It might cost you £200, £300, £400 a month. If you find the right person to do that with, and you start small, and then you can grow into it. And I would argue that if you can't afford £200, £300, £400 a month as a business in order to improve your business, that coach hasn't got to give you many things before you start to see a return on that investment, right? You know, if you can look at what you're doing now and say, I'm doing it all right anyway, well, then you don't need it. And quite frankly, you're not honest with yourself. But I would imagine that most people can look and go, I know I'm not doing all right. I know I can get better. And there's always some quick wins in there. So you don't have to go and make a massive investment. But again, you know, even a coach at a decent level, let's say they were costing you a couple of grand a month, right? You would hire somebody and they might cost you 25, 30 grand a year. that could be really poor for your business, never perform, and just because they're on the employee payroll, you wouldn't look at it the same way. But suddenly, because it's an external cost and it's got an invoice coming every month, you look at it like it's got to have a really high value straight away. And I look at it differently, which is that, you know, that is about consistency over time. That's about you investing in the growth of your business, and there will be money far worse spent in every single business out there. If
I
you
think
get
there's
the person
also
right.
the opportunity. Well, this is it, and as I said, like, it's how many frogs do you need to kiss before you find the right one? And I think also a lot of the people that you do find, maybe the pay grade is too far above, and you know they're busy doing other things. I think it's if you haven't got the spare capital, you are on that early stage. It was interesting, you know, Set Squared.
Yep.
An incubator in the southwest, you know, Exeter, Southampton, all over. I think, you know, if you're a tech business, then there's a lot of support there. You know, Luke Lang from Crowdcube, I think he was one of the business coaches.
Yeah.
Landed on your feet there, haven't you? If you know you're coming through as a small startup and you've got Luke as your business coach. So there are other options out there, you know, looking for incubators or other I guess support networks for those startups. But it can be difficult. And I say, from my side, is it something that I would look at? Of course, if I came across someone I had a massive connection with and they understood the business and they saw value in what we were doing, of course we'd look at that. You know, I would never discount that we would be open to bringing on a coach, especially, let's say, Career Habit Pro. You know, with what we're trying to do in that field, would we want someone to come on board, give us a bit of guidance, you know, maybe have a different way of viewing things and looking at things? 100%. But it would have to be the right person. And I must admit, going out and trying to find the right person is more of a time. I don't know where I would begin to try.
Yeah. So what's the right person?
I think
who would get the best out of you? Who would get the best out of you, Neil?
So these are two different things here. I think there are two different things. Who's going to get the best out of me, or who's going to get the best out of the business? Because I think these are maybe two different things. Because again, if I look at me in terms of what I need and what I want to do, and maybe I've got a counselor for that, or more of not a life coach, but a personal coach. I think they would maybe question whether or not I just wanted to go and open up a little shack on the beach somewhere and not be too worried about anything, and just kind of disengage, which is what I want to do. So, you know, don't think too deeply into me, because my motivators aren't business. I love creating things. I love building things. I love being part of something, but I'm definitely not driven by the monetary side of things. Because, you know, I'm quite happy pootling along and, you know, doing my bits and pieces. For the business side of things, I think it's probably bringing someone in that has successfully scaled a business within a similar sector that we work in, which is always kind of service-based, in an international, or no, actually just national. I'd be happy just doing it in the UK. But also was willing to kind of put up with me and my, well, you know, we'll get to however far we get. Because again, a lot of those people, the business coaches, have that ambition to drive it. And I don't want to work, you know, 7 days a week anymore. No. I want to do less. I want to do 3 days a week. And hence why I think my focus has changed.
Early retirement, isn't it? Semi-retirement.
I love that. I love just go for a surf, have a run, make some nice food.
Do you know what I think the most important skill of a good coach is?
Go on.
Listening. The ability to listen. So go back to your point earlier about our coaches come in and they want to do this. Then they're not listening to you, because that's not what you brought them in for. If they were coaching you, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's one of the things with the person we had that was wrong. He didn't listen. He had his agenda. He did not listen. It was always his opinion, and he gave advice. And but he didn't listen to the situation properly before he gave advice. He just gave his experience and told you that's what you should do because that's what he did. And I think the ability to listen and translate that into either, I need to give advice here. Sometimes I just need to listen. Sometimes I just need to ask questions and help you navigate it. Somebody who's a really good listener is made to be, or has the ability to be, a really strong coach.
I'm listening to everything you're saying. I mean, I'm listening. I'm taking it all in.
This has gone
It's
wrong.
funny, like I do. No. But I think it's a really interesting one. It is, and there will be. I think there's two kinds of people, and I think for me, what's more important, a business coach or that kind of mental health side of things.
Yeah.
And again, for me, it's probably that mental health, that personal coach. And again, I'm super fortunate with being optimistic and not struggling with it. But I want to maintain that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that that's there forever and that never ever goes away. In terms of the business coach side of things and how I could take the businesses, say, to the next level, I don't know if, do I have the appetite to take it to the next level? And it's not that I'm not ambitious. It's not that I don't want the businesses to do well, but I guess I would feel like I was letting the coach down to some extent. It's like, come on, Neil, you're not being ambitious enough. Like,
well, you need the goal, right? You've got to have something that you've not got today. You've got to be working towards something that you've got. You said it yourself. I really like what I do. I'm poodling along. I earn enough money to be happy and comfortable. I enjoy having 2 or 3 projects on the go. You've got other people that are really driving those with you and for you. So you're not having to having to do everything within those businesses. And you're not driven by getting there and then there and then there. You're driven by happiness and by balance and freedom and all those sorts of things. You've got it. So I think, again, it goes back to your point earlier.
You can be my coach. You're my coach. It's you, Owen.
There we go. There we go. On that note, I think we should wrap up now knowing that I've set this conversation up about coaching so I could become your coach, and I've achieved my goal. So we're
such a salesman. Telling something to someone they didn't even realize they need. How dare you?
Uncover the pain.
It'd be interesting, and I would love to hear more, because obviously you do have Clover as that kind of coach role. So I've got that organic kind of coaching element, but also from coaches. I'd love to hear their views in terms of what they bring, because again, I don't know enough about it. I see it on,
and what makes a good coachee? What
some of
makes
the
a good
success. Yeah.
What was it? Is that the right word? Coachee?
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes a good person to coach?
Like
good. What? Yeah. What makes you coachable? What makes someone coachable as a business owner or founder? Like, some people, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want someone else's opinion. They know it all. I'd imagine.
I think there is an element there. Like the key, and again, you go back to it, is like knowing what you want to achieve, like you did for your sub 40. Yeah. Having a really clear goal there. Because if I turned around and said, right, I want Career Habit Pro to be turning over 2 million in the next 2 years, then bring a coach on in terms of help me achieve that. So maybe that's where I need to start looking in terms of actually having a clear goal of where I need to be, and then finding the right person that can help us get there.
Mate, it's all interesting stuff.
If there's any coaches out there that can help Career Habit Pro achieve 2 million in, say, revenue in the next 2 years, please let me know. There
you go. A job advert is out there. Shout at Neil if you want a job as his coach, because I don't want it.
Yes. You're already my coach.
I already got in. I got back 10 minutes later. Lovely to see you, mate, as always. Thank you for your time. See you soon.